Hello and welcome back. I would just like to take this opportunity to remind everybody that there is no plausible excuse or justifiable reason for any of my father's terrorism whatsoever. There has never been and there isn't one today. And I'm referring, of course, to the terrible nationwide campaign of just torture, kidnapping, patient beating, serial murder that is currently just terrorizing the whole entire country. And all this constitutes is a very uh, powerful, millionaire just throwing his weight around. That's all it really adds up to. It's just a bad-tempered oligarch terrorist throwing his weight around, and it constitutes nothing more than gain-of-function research. That's all it really, in a nutshell, adds up to. Just the most basic, rudimentary gain-of-function research you can possibly imagine. With the express intention, of course, of just beating down cures, suppressing life-saving information, beating back any simple science that can help to save lives, in order to make cancer more deadly, more terrifying, and allow these oligarch terrorists just to use the disease to mutilate, torture, and terrorize innocent patients as much as they want. That's basically all they're fighting for, is their right just to mutilate, torture, and cause as much misery as they possibly can. And this, as I say, yes, is the most basic example of gain-of-function research, that we can possibly find at the moment. And very clearly, people are going to put two and two together, nationwide very soon. And this is one of my father's deep concerns at the moment, that people will do exactly that. Realise that all this crime he's committing is nothing more than a satanic cult. Literally addicted to gain-of-function research. They're addicted to these crimes. They're addicted to the money. And they have provided all the inspiration for making a man-made bioweapon. And of course, when the public find out that, the anger, of course, is going to be unprecedented for perfectly justified reasons this time. And this is only causing my father to go into perform more gain-of-function research. It's just spurring him to carry on with all this crime, literally just in the hope and the desperate attempt to get away with it all. In other words, hopefully, that his money is enough to bribe people in positions of power to look the other way while he just walks out as a free man. Which, okay, this is, it's understandable why he would want to do that. But we now have, numerous reasons, or I have, to believe that several, if not more, members of my family are already dead. This is in light of the onslaught of terrorism that's been going on now for the last 25 years, and in light of the recent Pfizer data dump. I now have multiple reasons to be very concerned that one, two, or more members of my family are already dead, either beaten to death, either tortured to death, either died from the vaccine, blood clots, strokes, AIDS, side effects. We all know what they are now. And the other rather worrying factor here is that the Met appear very reluctant to tell me if any member of my family is to have died. In other words, they themselves are aware that I'm using all this as evidence to add to the already existing gigantic pile of evidence I have of medical corporate tyranny, and can take it straight into a courtroom and say, look, I told you, this is all gain-of-function research. I told you, there's a massive scam going on. I told you my family are being murdered. And lo and behold, look, here are 5 dead bodies, or here's, a couple of dead bodies, which proves that I was exactly right about everything I said. So for that reason, the Met, will quite possibly be extremely reluctant to tell me if my closest next of kin have died, which is all this really amounts to, just denying me the right to mourn for my next of kin, which again is just an unprecedented situation. I've never heard of this happening before. Somebody just singled out, terrorised and denied the opportunity to mourn for their closest next of kin, quite simply because they're terrified that they'll use that as evidence of their own terrorism, kidnapping, torture, murders and gain-of-function research, which is, well, just absolutely disgusting. And yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. And of course, if anybody has seen any members of my family alive, please get in touch with me, because I personally have not seen any sight nor sound of any member of my family. This is the Galizia, Dunkley, or Sarson family for the past 10 years or so. I saw my mother a couple of years ago. She was literally mutilated beyond recognition, neglected and damaged and unrecognizable. So that then raised the alarm over the fact that obviously, several other members could be mutilated beyond recognition, left in a wheelchair, or just be dead. And this is, of course, part of a much wider nationwide problem, of this satanic cult of just serial killers, just oligarch millionaires throwing their weight around, terrorizing, murdering, mutilating, kidnapping and torturing on an unprecedented scale. So, yeah. There are also really some quite worrying indications that this is all an American problem, which is another subject I want to be addressing in future videos. This is, in other words, this is all just stems from just American bank corruption, nothing else. And of course, the first businesses that they prop up, are the big pharma cartels, aren't they? Not just the war machine. It's just two main prongs of corruption that they seem to exploit, and that's just war and medical issues, of which, obviously, we're seeing a large amount of both at the moment. And what's happening with my father is very indicative, very sadly, of just US political gangsters surrounding themselves with hitmen. This is another feature really that needs to be addressed. My father has just surrounded himself with very bad-tempered, violent people who are nothing really more than just hitmen, assassins and executioners and serial killers. Much like a baby wraps themselves in a duvet to help themselves feel more safe and secure. In other words, he himself doesn't want to get his hands dirty, doesn't want to murder people himself personally, and is quite happy to let other people do it for him on his behalf. And if anyone knocks on his door, he can just deny he had anything to do with it. It's all terribly convenient. And yeah, as I say, it's very indicative of like American US gangsters, political gangsters in the 60s, who pursued exactly the same pattern of behaviour, literally just surrounding themselves with hitmen in order to feel more safe and secure and promote their own agenda. And it's very sad to see that happening here in the midst of this massive American corporate corruption scandal, which, as I say, I shall be looking into with future videos a lot more closely, because I think that it's about time that Britain stopped towing the line for American corporate gangsters. Because if we look at America now and just look on YouTube, American public have seen through it. The American public are not swallowing it anymore. Not their politicians, certainly not the general public. They're just taking the piss out of the vaccine, taking the piss out of the COVID scam, taking the piss out of everything, just laughing their heads off at the banks and their just corruption. They're not swallowing any of it, whereas we just appear to be like sucking it up like good British idiots, which I think, had a shelf life, and I think that's, come to the end of its life at the moment. And we have to wake up now and just stop towing the line for these American corporate gangster serial killers, because that's all they are. Nothing more than just serial murdering psychopaths who have a lot of money and wish to throw their weight around. And and they're using Britain just as a puppet, as a pawn in their massive game, which I think, has to end. Not just Britain, of course, but several other countries. So yeah, more on this story later, and thank you for watching.